With the second round bracket finally closing this past weekend, we finally have a better look at just who's taking the crown for MACBA 6. With the semifinals approaching, we have our top 4 contenders slated to go head to head against each other to determine the final 2. Now the MACBA rules are fairly simple. Any trick done in the plaza counts, you can't pick the same spot twice in a row, defense has 2 tries and a third on their last, and the table must be used at least once. Whereas last year's events were spearheaded by Monster and Volcom, this time around we have some less favorable sponsors from the notorious Kariuma and the Barracks.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Now, although there's always questionable ethics in play when these names are mentioned, we do only see one Kariuma rider in the mix for the semis, so that kind of answers that. On to our first 2, of which will be Cody Cepeda versus John Dilo, followed by our last 2, and my apologies if I butcher the name, Kylian Zehender versus ADRIEL Parmisiano. Now when it comes to the first semifinals matchup, each of these skaters are uniquely different in their own overall styles and abilities, but based off the first 2 rounds, it appears Cody Cepeda is definitely our most versatile skater on the list, having both the widest obstacle variety selection and the highest amount of tricks landed in the left side of the bracket. However, he does have the highest amount of bails for tricks set in offense, and is tied for the highest amount of layers received so far in the concurrent rounds. As far as Cody's opponent, John Dilo, is concerned, the unpredictability in both spot and trick selection will ultimately be his greatest winning factor. Considering both Cody and John went first on both their rounds, it'd be interesting to see how Dilo fares going second and having to play catch up. From what I and a handful of others could see, with both Dilo's rounds, it's fair to say that this man loves his ollies. Having opted for 5 of his 12 selected tricks across both rounds being purely ollies over the ledge or the table respectively. Whether this is pure strategy or just poor sportsmanship is really based on perspective, but in all honesty, he was the only skater to have a full closeout in exactly 5 tricks minimum, and despite it not being enjoyable to watch, in my opinion, I guess it's a smart move, if you're trying to win at least.
At 30.
Say what you want about his excessive manuals, but ollies are the most basic setup trick below a kickflip or a pop shove, and it's hard to give a pass to any skater who can't make it within 2 or 3 tries. Now, as much as people may think the manuals Dilo performs prove to be difficult for any opponent to achieve right off the bat, Cody himself performed just as many manual-based tricks in his own rounds, so it's hard to say Dilo has invested in that regard. One clear advantage I see Cody having is utilizing both his stair and grind tricks, as Dilo definitely avoided setting any grind tricks and couldn't land or set anything down the stairs either. Besides the switch varial flip being landed by Leandre Saunders, Cody could have easily closed up the game of 5 tricks, but still landed 6 with 0 bails in his second round match. If not for Leandre and his 3rd sequential bail in Cody's first match with Angelo Caro, his match with Dilo resulted in fairly identical results. However, only one of these skaters can really move forward. And despite being fairly matched in terms of stance percentage, layers received, and manual tricks performed, I personally feel that despite John Dilo's dirty moves, Cody Cepeda has a good enough track record, especially with being in the Battle of the Barracks last year, and will possibly win. Especially if he nails the Rochambeau and or doesn't bail more than once, he will most definitely have a chance and probably take that spot. Having landed 19 tricks despite 3 bails and 6 letters, Cody's ability is better observed than that of Dilo's with 14 tricks, 1 bail, and 6 letters. With Cody having a higher defensive rate of success and Dilo having a lesser trick variety, having defended just as many tricks as letters he received, literally double than that of Dilo. As much as Dilo's ability is restrained with these ollies and manuals, and he does have potential for more, I don't think it's enough to shake Cody in the long run, giving the first half of the bracket to corporate's coolest concrete cruising Kariuma connoisseur, Cody Cepeda. Since they're both first-timers to KOM, either winner will have the luxury of facing a more familiar MACBA face with the resulting battle of Kylian versus ADRIEL. Now, Kylian definitely is a force to be reckoned with, having 11 of his 14 selected tricks being grind-based, with the remaining 3 not even being in regular stance either. Not to mention, Kylian is the only skater in the entire bracket to lose Rochambeau both times, giving the upper hand to his opponent on the first trick twice and still winning.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Although this did not seem to faze him, as both him and ADRIEL were tied for the least amount of letters received across both rounds. Kylian was also the only skater to not bail a single trick in either round 1 or 2, having executed 19 tricks with no problem whatsoever, with also defending more tricks than the others. However, his future opponent, ADRIEL, is not messing around, as this is not his first rodeo in the King of MACBA circuit. Having lost the quarterfinals in 2020, the finals in 2021, and the prelims in 2022, he isn't a stranger to how this game is played and probably is the most familiar with MACBA and the tournament circuit. That being said, ADRIEL proved he means business with winning both rounds in the fewest amount of set tricks out of all 4 skaters. Out of his 11 set tricks and 3 defended, he was able to land 8 of them switch, having the highest switch trick percentage of the 4 skaters, as well as being the only skater amongst the 3 to bother executing a fakie trick at all.
I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better.
He could have easily won each game with the closeout had Kevin not landed the switch heel down the set, and had he not bailed on his first trick on offense against Alex Moore in round 2. From the tricks he did, he's no stranger to grinds and has no issue throwing down stair sets, having done more than both D'Lo and Cepeda with ease. As much as Killian has his grind combos on lock, I don't see it phasing out Adriel as much as it did for his previous opponents Gustavo and Matthias, but just as much can be said for Adriel's tricks down the stairs, as it doesn't appear to phase Killian either, having set 2 tricks down the 5 stair in a switch stance no less. This match will definitely be a tough one, but I'm gonna have to trust my gut, and based on Adriel's performance, he had the lowest contested amount of tricks and the least sets needed to win both rounds. Although Killian didn't bail a single trick, I feel that when it comes between these two skaters, one bail isn't a safe enough barrier to recover from, especially if Killian's unlucky Rochambeau streak continues and gives the advantage to Adriel. So in conclusion, I'm gonna have to give the right side of the bracket to Adriel, as I feel he isn't trying to have a repeat of previous events, especially with the chance of the non-native McMinion taking the crown. With that being said, and if my predictions are correct, that'll leave a finals match consisting of internet personality and Los Angeles local Cody Cepeda going head-to-head with King of MACBA alumni and former runner-up to Thiago Lemos in 2021, Adriel Parmigiano. Now I'm going to hold off on any future statistical predictions, as I don't want to get too ahead of myself without the results of the semifinals set in stone. However, I'm definitely leaning more heavily towards Adriel being my personal favorite to win the whole thing, as both on paper and with previous history, he seems like he could take it. Considering his finals matchup in 2021 was against Thiago Lemos, and this year's potential is Cody Cepeda or John D'Lo, I just don't see Adriel breaking a sweat over some American industry heads compared to that of one of the likes of Brazilian's top skaters. However, if John D'Lo does feel so inclined, he could aim to win the entire remainder of the event without ever bothering to flip his board.
Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
Hope you all appreciated my predictions and opinions on the upcoming semifinals for King of MACBA 6, and be sure to keep an eye out for the following final predictions after the semifinal event's conclusion. Thanks for watching, and stay pushing.
Such a good dick spin.